Let's talk about some shrinkage. I was in the pool.
New in 2024, staffing up a shrinking Air Force. Okay, so this one is short enough. I'm going to read the whole thing. The Air Force in 2024 plans to shrink its uniformed force, but not by much. In the year ahead, the service hopes to number 502,700 enlisted airmen and officers across the active duty Air Force, Air National Guard, and Air Force Reserve, about 1,000 fewer uniform jobs than in 2023. Congressionally proposed cuts may drive the total slightly lower. The decline is linked to plans to retire multiple aircraft fleets, but also points to the Air Force's challenges in filling these roles. Staffing those billets requires the third largest branch of the U.S. Armed Forces to hit its recruiting goals, retain airmen who are already in uniform, and pull various policy levers to ensure staff are used wisely. Officials aim to reverse the service's recent recruiting woes and bring in 25,900 new active duty enlisted troops by the end of September 2024. The Air Force hopes adding more recruiters, changing policies around fitness and appearance, and chipping away at its own red tape will prevent last year's shortfall from becoming a longer trend. It seems to be working. As of December 8th, the service had reached its active duty enlistment goal of 6,342 people, while falling about 70 people short in the reserve and about 390 short in the Guard. We are trending well ahead of where we were this time last year. Air Force Recruiting Service spokesperson, I actually said that, Leslie Brown said, once a recruit comes in, the Air Force wants to keep them. The service expected to retain about 93% of its officers and 90% of its enlisted airmen in fiscal 2023, spokesperson Master Sergeant Deanna Heitzman said in August. It's trying to sweeten the deal with monetary bonuses, greater job flexibility, and other policies designed to improve quality of life, particularly in most crucially understaffed fields. It's also keeping troops in the service's lowest ranks longer to ensure that lagging recruitment doesn't lead to too few entry-level airmen, and increasing the number of years airmen can stay in uniform before they're kicked out, among other changes to the shape of the force. Meanwhile, the Space Force has already met its officer and enlisted recruiting goals for the year as it continues to expand. The nation's newest and smallest military service is projected to grow to 9,400 billets in 2024 and total 14,300 jobs overall.
You think we could fly something in the Space Force?
Probably some in DCS. That's about it.
So, I mean, obviously, when supply is less than demand, Space Force has no problem because nobody. I mean, that's not really an issue, dude. So, we're trying to do more with less because you've got two problems here. One, they're cutting, but two, we can't reach the recruiting goals.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're lowering the standard, and they are, I'm not about kicking people out, but usually they get rid of the people who aren't doing anything that don't promote. And here in the article, it's like, we're going to keep them longer. So I'm talking at entry level mover, not where you and I are. That's a whole nother problem, but
I see.
But, I mean, they're lowering lower the standard and then, keep the underperformers. That's how they're going to boost their numbers from the abysmal performance that they did, last year from recruiting, which I just think it's sad, man. I'm like, gosh, I mean, they're trying stuff, which you got to give them credit for that. But
dude, it's such a complicated problem because in some areas there are no shortages, like for retention or recruiting. For some areas like pilot, there's a shortage of retention, but not necessarily as much in the recruiting phase, although in some cases it is. And in some cases it's both, in some jobs that are maybe less desirable or people don't know enough about them. But, dude, this is something we've been dealing with for a while, right? The party had to stop. We had 20 years of huge budgets and wars that were driving huge budgets, and all the money had to go somewhere, and they needed more people, and they were doing all this stuff. They could be selective if they wanted to because the economy wasn't doing well and whatever. I mean, dude, you and I have talked about this from an economical perspective. we've been propping up our economy, the world economy even, for a very long time. And at some point, the music's going to stop. And the military is going to become much more desirable. Meanwhile, they don't have the budget to do it.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, I don't know, man. I think the whole reason why they're having a recruiting problem is because they decided to treat the military just like you're going to go work at Boeing, IBM, American, whatever, a big corporate. It's like, it's exactly the same. So why would a young person join the military when they could just go work at a corporate job, have to put up with the same crap, make more money, and not get shot at? Because when I was a little kid, my dad would always tell me, he's like, man, you go to the military, it's about how well you perform, and it's it'll turn you into a man, it'll teach you how to fight, I mean, the John Wayne stuff, and that's, as a kid, I was like, that's what I want.
Well, they'll pay to turn you into a man now.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Medical procedures if you need it.
But that's the kind of stuff that is hurting them, and I'm not saying that stuff's right or wrong, but okay, so if you're going to act just like a civilian company by providing that kind of benefit, why would you go there? I wouldn't, I mean, looking at it objectively as a young person, I mean,
it goes back to what we were talking about before. One is messaging, because you've got a very information centric generation, because they've ever grown. I mean, your kids have grown up with technology that you didn't. I mean, I don't know if you let them use iPads and stuff like that, but most of America does, even though you don't. So the 18, 19, 20-year-olds are growing up with TikTok. And we've talked about TikTok. It's 15 to 30 seconds worth of mind melt. And the information it's ADD fuel, ADHD fuel. It's just dopamine hit. And so everything is high reward as quickly as possible. And if I can't get a reward as quickly as possible, I move on to the next thing. Meanwhile, you've got, I hit 40 last year or this year. This is the most divided I've seen a country in my adult life. Like, I've never seen the levels of everything is a conspiracy on every side of the aisle. Everything's always a conspiracy. Everything is treason. Both sides are accusing of each other of treasonous acts. It's so divisive. Like, I remember before, you could disagree with somebody and it was a policy, not a person. You would say, well, I don't disagree with this. Now granted, there would be the quips. Even Reagan back in the day, I'm not going to make fun of my opponent's, younger age. It did happen, but it was more civil. Like, I don't remember a time where we got into this. And so what that transcends to is these kids that go, what am I going to go fight for? Because I don't believe in, no matter which side of the aisle you're on. Because if you're on one side, you're like, well, it's fascist government, America, there's no American exceptionalism. There's no desire, we're the invaders everywhere we go. We're bad. America's bad. Why would I want to fight for bad? And then there's the other side, which says, well, it's this big conspiracy. They're out to get me. They're watching me. Big Brother's watching me. America's bad because of, the current regime that's in place, that's throwing everybody in jail or whatever. I'm speaking generically here. But what I'm saying is both sides believe it. And when you have that, there is no patriotism when you think your government is the problem, for better or worse. And when you have no patriotism to go fight for your country, then it becomes the corporate thing. What can they do for me? And if you look at that and go, well, I can make X amount of money doing this here, or I can make, that in the civil sector, what's the point?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So they got to sell, make the Air Force again, right? They've gone away from that. And that guard that we played, that guard commercial a couple shows ago. Now that's a step in the right direction. But there are young people out there. I didn't know anything about politics or world stuff I still don't. But when I was, 20, I just had in my mind I wanted to do something, and that required me joining the military. And I think there's young people out there like that now, and that's what the military needs to focus on, being the military, is what I'm saying.
Well, but that's partly because, number one, the people in charge have been in charge way too long.
Oh, I get it. I agree with you. Everything you said is 1,000% right.
But look at it. The people that have been in charge for like 60 years. Like we desperately need to get new blood, new faces everywhere. But the other piece to this too is, dude, when you and I joined, we were galvanized, dude. We've talked about this. We watched thousands of people die in real time on TV.
Yeah.
At that point, it did not matter who, what, when, where. We were just mad, and we wanted to go kick some doors in. Mm-hmm. It's the Toby Keith song. We'll stick a boot in your ass. It's the American way. That's
what I'm saying. The military needs to promote military stuff. I mean, yeah, but I just think this article is sad because they're just looking at the numbers. I don't think they're doing the right steps to fix the problem. But that's just my own armchair quarterback,